Happy Wednesday, everyone. I feel like it's been forever since I have done a live video on my normal Wednesday nights, but I have had a lot going on. Some personal things have been coming up, as well as, wanting to just take some time away from social media to figure out where I want to take direction in my business, and also still make sure that I am not only helping others and serving others and bringing value to you guys, but also taking care of myself. And you guys know probably how much I talk about all that stuff. So I cannot take what I don't preach, right? I really do believe in practicing what I preach. So if that means that I need to step away and step back from my business or social media, then hey, thanks for joining, Becky. Then that is what I feel that sometimes just needs to happen. But anyways, I am so glad I am back. I'm very excited about today's topic. So if you are just joining me, and maybe you're new to following me, I just want to quickly introduce myself. But my name is Kayla Slater. I am a registered dietitian and also an online nutrition and run coach. And I recently just started, I say recently, but it has been almost a year really since I've started my online business called plant-based nutrition and run coaching. So that is super exciting, and I'm very excited to be able to offer my expertise and help you in any way I can. So anyways, today I want to talk about meal planning. I have found the more I've been working with more clients and people, that I feel like meal planning is something that everyone struggles with. And I found, especially for people that are plant-based and or an endurance athlete or someone that's active, it can be very challenging to eat the right amount of foods, that really help you for your performance, especially if you are looking for more performance. And not all of my clients are really eating for performance, and really we're just focusing on the basics and, getting their diet on track to make sure they're eating what they need to be eating to support their health, and getting the right nutrients, which that can be the first place to start when you're eating plant-based, right? So but I found that even, thrown in with wanting to eat for performance and eating plant-based, it can be even more challenging. And I think what's really important, or what the first step that I really feel that is important for people to get in the habit of doing, is meal planning. And I wish there was a way around it, but I really don't think or believe there's really a way out of it, unless you really are somebody that doesn't have a lot of time, but you do have the money to invest in, buying pre-made meals, and you can find a service that, has, the right amount of foods, and what you're eating, right? So what I'm saying is, like, how many macros are in that meal, and or you even say that even if they don't, maybe you can still figure that out yourself, but that could still be challenging, I think, if you are getting pre-made meals. Plus it is very expensive, but that's not to say you can't. There are some meal services out there, so there's definitely an option, and there's also there are recipes and tons of things out there, right? But I think it's for you that is a plant-based endurance athlete, or someone that's active, you may want to really consider more and figure out what are recipes, or what are meals that I really should be eating to help my performance, if that's something that you are wanting to achieve and that's important to you. So it really just depends on your goals too. But anyway, so I want to give you guys today my meal planning tips, because I think this will be really helpful, or I hope it is. If it is really helpful, just comment below helpful to let me know if this is helpful. And also, I want to give something away to you guys, and also hope that I can get some feedback to see what you guys want or what would be helpful for you. So here are my tips for meal planning. So I'm just going to give you guys some general meal planning tips. So these aren't really too specific what I do when I work with clients, but I'll go more into that. But my first tip with meal planning, and these are, as I said, general, would be block off time. Make sure to block off time during the week, maybe a day that you have off. That you have at least a couple hours. And yes, at first, if you're not somebody that normally meal preps and meal plans and does all these steps, it can feel very daunting. It can feel like it takes a lot of time and that you may need 4 hours to do all of it. But I do want to say that you will get faster, you will get more efficient at it the more you do it. And the more you understand, the foods that you need, or, you start to get in that rhythm of, having those staple foods on hand and things like that. Especially, if you're running and you're training. I know a lot of people are, may have already ran their fall marathons and maybe they haven't yet. But really, when you're training in that training mode, right, it's really important that you make sure that you have these staple foods and make sure you have foods on hand to make sure you recover, right? Because if you're not having those foods in your house that are not prepared, then how are you going to quickly be able to recover after your workout or run, right? So anyways, my first tip is to block off time during your week to plan your meals. So also, write out all your meals that you're going to have for the week, including any snacks, and then also make your grocery list. So after you have your list of all your meals, then you want to create your grocery list, right? And then also when you're creating that grocery list, it's really a good idea to look in your pantry and see what you have, see what you don't have. So it's also very good to, keep those cabinets and cupboards organized if you can, just so you can quickly look, what do I have, what do I need? And I think it's a good idea to also keep a staple list of, just foods that you want to always have on hand, that may be something that you can quickly eat and you can have, after a run or workout or anything like that. Or before, right, to help you fuel for a run, right? So that's going to be important too. So there are, many staples that I keep on hand. So for example, of course I always have produce and, fresh fruits and veggies. Those things often, they don't last long, right? So I often buy those things. So really the pantry staples that I would say that I'm talking more about is more like, let's see, peanut butter, my nuts, my beans. I usually buy canned beans or dried, so bagged beans. It's really up to you, your preference, how much time you have to prepare, things like that. But those are the kind of things that I know. Also whole grains, so your quinoa, rice, brown rice. Those are the types of foods that I always have on hand because I know every week that I'm going to be most likely using meals with those. I have been trying to create different meals and mix it up. This season, I do have a cold, as you can probably hear, but now that it's getting chillier and colder, I thought, oh my gosh, this is a great time to start doing soups, and I can start throwing in, somewhat the same produce and fresh veggies that I have, but make it in a different dish, so it's a little bit different than I always eat, right? So just mixing it up. But having stews or soups, especially this time of season, is great. Plus you can really just throw anything in. You can throw your beans in, your veggies, right, all that stuff. So I love making soups, pretty easy, and you can vary things, right? So you don't feel like you're eating the same foods all the time. So that's my first tip. All right, so block off time, plan those meals and snacks, and then make that grocery list before you come before you go to the grocery store, okay? Number two, so my second tip would be to keep it simple. So I kind of already started to explain about, or sort of already mentioned this a little bit about, making soups. I think soups are really simple, they're easy. Another thing that I really enjoy and make a lot are power bowls, or Buddha bowls, however you want to call them. But I do those a lot, and I vary by mixing it up. So maybe one time I'm going to use quinoa, maybe another time I'm going to use brown rice, maybe another time I'm going to use tempeh, maybe another time I'm going to use chickpeas, or another time I'm going to use tempeh. Things like that. Or, I've been trying to vary to my produce and what I've been buying based on the season and what's local, things like that. So maybe you're going to want to, buy, now that we're going into fall, winter, maybe you're going to want to try to incorporate more of those fall, winter vegetables. So that's kind of how I, mix things up a little bit, but also keeping it simple, right? Because bowls are really great because it's so easy. So usually, just to break it down real simple, what I'm talking about is a bowl. I usually always have a green, so that's like kale or spinach. Then and it's usually cooked. It doesn't have to be, well, sometimes I don't have it cooked. Sometimes I just make a salad, but sometimes I cook it too. And then I usually have a protein, so beans, tofu, tempeh. And then I usually have a root vegetable, so beets or potatoes. Sweet potatoes are my favorite, often what I use. Sometimes I use broccoli, cauliflower, really any veggies you could put in it. And then, so your veggies, you got your veggies, your protein, your leafy greens, dark leafy greens, and then I also add grains. So your sweet potatoes are going to count as a grain because they're a starchy vegetable, but I usually also add another grain because especially as an endurance athlete, you need those carbohydrates, right? You need those carbs. So don't be afraid of eating those. So I usually have a starchy vegetable along with still my grain. So usually quinoa and rice. Lately I've been doing mixing my quinoa and rice because the quinoa, I do like the red, and this is just my preference, my food preference, but I like the tricolor quinoa a lot better for the taste, but for some reason I can't always find that in the grocery store, so I've been getting the plain quinoa, but I started to mix it with the brown rice. So that just adds, it helps me with the flavor because I don't really care too much for the flavor of the regular quinoa, but it also helps me for not only, eating brown rice, which is just the grain, but quinoa also has added protein. So I still count quinoa as a grain, but it does have that added protein. So that's just something, this is a side tip that I've been doing lately, which might help. So as I said, like keeping it simple, right? You can make bowls. And then what I like about that too is, now that it's soup season, I realize that, oh, wow, now, I've been, doing these bowls a lot, kind of sick of this. But the thing is, those veggies and those things that I normally prep and put it in those bowls, I can also make a soup. So how cool is that? Like I could, every other day eat a different meal or mix it up a little bit, right? In that, okay, I can still use these sweet potatoes. I could, make them for my bowl and have that as a meal, but then I could also put the sweet potatoes in a soup or a stew. So that's what I mean by keeping it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. There are lots of recipes out there. I do have some recipes. If you're, would like those recipes, just comment below ebook and I can send you my free recipe ebook. And those might help you to think about things that get started. But I really try to keep those recipes very simple and easy. They're not, super complicated. So I think that's really important too, because it can get very overwhelming and complicated if you're really making a lot of, meals that have a lot of ingredients. For me, and this is just my personal preference of what I do, but I may just try to, if I want to mix it up and I'm getting bored of eating the same types of food since I have been, really plant-based or vegan, vegetarian for 5 years now, what I do is, because it's really somewhat the same amount of foods, right? Because I'm really eating the same amount of food, since my diet hasn't really changed too drastically in the last 5 years. So what I've been doing is sorry, lost my train of thought. So what I've been doing is mixing things up a little bit, so it doesn't get too boring, right? So yes, keeping it simple, making, using some ingredients in more than one dish. And that can also help you with meal planning, or meal prepping, because you're not prepping as many foods. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So what my preference is, or what I do, is that I found when I plan out my meals and I planned a different meal for every day, I noticed that I was buying a lot of ingredients, a lot of food, I was going over budget, and I was wasting a lot of food. So what I do is, I do want something different. If I had a new recipe that I want to try, and I just try a new recipe once a week. And that's just my preference, and that's just what I found that works for me. But if I'm trying to, create all these different recipes every single day, I found that it's just too much, because there's too many ingredients. I waste food. But I'm also just one person, and I only feed myself. So that may be a little different for you if you're someone that has a family. If there's two of you, right, that may be a little different, or maybe you have more time. It just really depends on you, your family, who you're feeding, and how much time you have, right? I don't have a lot of time to cook either, and that's why I always, I've made my meals and my snacks very simple and easy as possible. Okay, so that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is including foods that you love and you know you will eat. So, when you're creating your meal plan, don't forget about the foods that you do love to eat. So if you love chocolate chip cookies, and maybe you're trying to have less dairy or less fat or whatever that is, right? Or wanting to eat more whole food, plant-based, or vegan, then how can you have that food but just tweak it a little bit to still enjoy it, right, without eliminating it from your diet? Because I want to make sure that I really want to get across is that you guys can include what foods you enjoy in your diet, and figure out what works for you, right? Figure out what works that fits in for you. So for example, I gave the cookie example, right? So I've been craving cookies. At work, there's always sweets. And sometimes I do get tempted, and I do have maybe a half moon. I will admit I'm not very strict plant-based, and not always, I would say, 100% plant-based or vegan, because it's hard to resist those things, right? But then I realized, well, why is it hard for me to resist when those foods are at work, when I don't normally eat those? Is because I don't include those foods. And I realize I do enjoy those foods, but I don't normally include those foods in my meal plan, right? Or my meal prepping. So what I decided to do is, this week I made an apple cake, a vegan apple cake, and then I also made chickpea chocolate chip cookies, which are gluten-free and vegan. Both of those things are gluten-free and vegan. How cool is that? Like, I can still enjoy the foods that I love. I may just need to prep them or prepare them my own. They're not always the foods that I, could have at work. And as I said, I'm not always super strict about it, because it can be very hard. But I realized why that was coming from, or why, because I was craving sweets. And then I realized, well, if I actually made them for myself, then maybe I would go to work and I wouldn't want to have it, right? So I just want to make sure that you guys understand that, even if you are really looking to eat a very, healthy, whole food, plant-based diet, and really want to focus on improving your performance, if that is your goal, right, and your health, then, don't feel like you can't ever enjoy the foods that you love, because you can, right? And I want to make sure that, when you guys are meal prepping and meal planning, that you make sure that you do include those foods that you do like to enjoy. Because you can, and you can enjoy those foods. So make sure to include those foods, and the foods that you know you will eat, right? Don't make a meal plan for yourself, or what you think you should eat if you're not going to really eat those foods, or you don't think you're going to crave those foods. So, and that's really the challenge that I see come to with meal planning and prepping, or really meal planning is, sometimes, yes, you may be somebody that craves, that just craves foods, and you're like, well, here it's Sunday and I need a meal plan for the week, and this is only the time I have, but I know when it comes Thursday, I'm probably not going to want the food that I planned to eat. So then if you know that, then maybe figure out, well, how can I plan to figure out, figure out what you can do that may work better for you, knowing that, right? So let's think. So maybe if say that's you, right? Say you're like, well, I don't want to plan for the whole week, and then by Thursday I'm not going to crave this food, and then it's going to be a food, waste of food, and I don't want to do that. Well, maybe if you can squeeze in more time in the middle of your week, just plan for a couple days and see how that goes. Excuse me. Or, just focus on, on that Sunday, prepping the base for certain meals to save some time. So for example, with that, I always usually will prep my whole grains, so my rice and my quinoa, and I just have those in my refrigerator for the week. So I don't always have them, I don't always create like a full meal, but a lot of times I'll just do the prep work, and then I'll have those ready so that I can throw them in, another dish, and I can make something a lot faster during the week. So for example, I will use stir fry is a perfect example, right? So you can, cook your rice and your quinoa, and cut up your veggies, right? Have your beans ready, or your tempeh or tofu, whatever that is. Have that all prepped and ready, and you can just throw it all together. But say it comes that day, say it's a Thursday, and you're planning on having the stir fry, and you have all that prep. Maybe you don't feel like stir fry, but you're like, oh, maybe I want like a burrito bowl, or I don't know, something else different. Well, you can make something different out of those foods, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so those are my 3 general tips for meal planning and prepping. And then what I also want to just talk quickly about is more in depth about creating a meal plan, and how I help clients do this. So my approach really to meal planning, I would say, is more of an intuitive approach a little bit, because you necessarily don't have to count your calories and count your macros. But how I get there and how I figure it out is I do all that groundwork behind the scenes, and I figure out the macros that you need, and figure out the exchanges. So if any of you are familiar with Beachbody, it's very similar to that in using those cups. And, that's more measuring out your foods. But really what I teach clients is more estimating the amounts of food using hand visuals. So, and learning the exchange system. So it is a little bit of a learning curve to learn the exchange system, but that is where we really start. So I do all that groundwork on figuring that out for you and give you the exchanges to help put a meal plan together. And then from there, we figure out a meal plan that fits into those exchanges. We work on that together to figure out foods that you like, and eventually we could have a weekly meal plan that you can follow, or you could take those exchanges and you could figure it out, or even work backwards and just count the number of exchanges per day that you need. So if you, breakfast, lunch, you have 2 grain starch exchanges, and you need 2 more, then for dinner, you'll add 2 more. So you can also do it that way, but I like doing it the other way. If you're somebody that wants to meal plan and know what foods that you need for the week, right, you can, use that, create a plan. You could even create a different plan each week. And then what you could do with that is you can create your, going back to my first step, right? Then you can use that to create your meal plan, create your grocery list, and all those other steps that I said, right? Including meal prep. So that is really what it looks like when you work with me and how I help you to develop a meal plan. So I do want to tell you that my approach is not that I'm going to give you a meal plan and say, this is what you should eat. This is what you should eat. It's very individualistic. It's really tailored to what you're going to do. I don't want to give you goals or give you something that is impossible for you to follow. Okay, so that's really what it looks like. But I wanted to give also these general tips if maybe you just want to figure this out on your own and aren't into meal planning. I think that's a really good step to figuring out. But if you are somebody that wants to figure out more about how many exchanges and macros that you need to be eating, I certainly, behind the groundwork, can figure that out for you, so then you kind of have better plan. So let me know if you do want to do that. But what I also have is that, or what I am working on, is a meal planning guide. So it's not quite done, but I do have a sneak peek to the meal planning guide. If you are interested in that, just comment below meal planning guide and I'll send you that. But I do want to add more to it, so I'm not completely finished with it because I think I can still somehow add more to help you to figure all this out that I just explained in this video. But as I said, I also have a free ebook of plant-based recipes. So if you're somebody that's even just looking for more recipes because you don't know what to eat or where to start, comment below ebook and I could certainly send you that. Or just message me and send me your email. I can also post a link below this video for all these free resources that I just mentioned. And then also, what else do I have? Oh, my staple list. So as I mentioned before, I think I did mention this before, but I talked about the staples that I keep in my food pantry. So this is really a good grocery list. So if that is something that you think would be really helpful too, just comment below staple list and I'll send you that. So yeah, so that is what I have for you guys. I hope this was really helpful for you. I see a couple people join me, so thank you very much for joining. I appreciate you guys being here and all the support that I've had so far, and I think that's it. Yeah. As I said, just comment below if you would like any of those resources, or if you would like all of them, just type below free resources. And then, as I said, I will post that link after this video, so you can have, so you can even just sign up right at the link if you want for any of those resources. So that is all I have. Yay! Okay. So if anyone has any questions, let me know. I am here to help you guys. As I said, I will give you a quick look or sneak peek to my meal planning guide, but I do feel that it's not quite finished. I want to add more to it and maybe put things more together. So it's just one guide that you can have, but if you are interested in it and want to take a quick peek and think it would be helpful, let me know. Also, if you have any feedback or any ideas of what would be helpful for you, I'm certainly open, and definitely reach out to me and let me know what you are interested in seeing. If it is more recipes, if it's more figuring out what are those, how can I figure out the macros on my own, or the exchanges on my own, or how, whatever you think that would be helpful. Let me know what would be helpful, or a sample meal plan if that's something you think would be helpful. like I said, if you work one-on-one on me, I'm not going to just give you a meal plan. But, if you're someone that don't feel that you're ready to invest or don't think you really need that one-on-one coaching, then, and you think a sample meal plan would help you to get started, then definitely let me know. You could just message me after this video and we can talk, but I definitely would like to know your feedback. And I will be, so also I do want to mention real quick, for anyone that does want a quick sneak peek of that meal planning guide, I am asking if you can give me some feedback for that guide, since, as I said, it's not completely finished and I feel that I want to add more to it. So if you do want that sneak peek, I just want to let you know that I am asking for some feedback, since it has not really been released quite yet. So I would really, really appreciate that. And that is all I have for today. So I'm going to get off and, excuse me, hope that everyone has a good rest of their evening and a good weekend. And, oh, I didn't even shout out to my shirt. I forgot. I'm a dietitian. What is your superpower? So thank you so much. Austin and Marissa are part of Registered Dietitian Approved, which are doing amazing things in the dietitian community, not only helping and mentoring other dietitians, but also providing a community to get our names out there as the nutrition experts and who we are. So I am very thankful that they created a store and can now buy merchandise, which is really awesome. So I am very proud to be wearing this shirt because I feel as a dietitian, this is my superpower that I have, because it gives me the ability to be able to share my knowledge and help other people. So I certainly feel like that is a superpower, and that is why I try to show up and give value to you guys and serve you as much as I possibly can. So anyways, I hope everyone has a wonderful night and has a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys all soon. Bye.